Hi everyone, it's Nono here, and this is one more week of Nono.MA live. As I've mentioned before, this is a time of the week that I reserve every Thursday, usually in the afternoons, but today I'm doing this really early morning, to do creative coding and machine intelligence. I'm going to get going really fast because we're going to be recording a few tutorials today. And you can see on the bottom right of the screen what we're going to take a look at today. We're going to continue with what I've been doing before, with taking a look at how to build a React application and maybe briefly record some tutorials on Laravel routing. Okay, let's get started and we'll do a more deep dive about this live stream in a second. And for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Nono Martinez Alonso. I'm a designer and machine learning engineer. And yeah, I'll invite you to take a look at the previous videos if you don't know what this is about. Okay, so I'll let you know first that by liking this video, you support the work that I'm doing here with the channel and all the tutorials. And you can subscribe and click on the bell if you want to get notified when I go live next or when I upload new videos. You can join the community, it keeps growing, so you can go to the QR code up there if you want to join the Discord server, or just go to nono.ma/discord. And if you're online, I will greatly appreciate if you let me know if you can hear me okay and if you can see me okay. And last week we took a deep dive into how to build a React application with ES-Build and add other things like CSS loaders and TypeScript loaders and create serve, which is a way of live reloading the application. And this is part of the intelligence and sketching playlist that we're building, and we didn't get to take a look at Pix to style to Pix. We're not going to do that today either, but we're doing it in the near future. Live 46 at nono.ma/live/46. I am putting together like a starter Laravel playlist. So there are a few videos already out, and right now these are coming out daily. I'll invite you to go there. So we've done some work to edit these videos and get them down to like a really short amount of time so you can consume them a lot faster and get to the point really quickly. And as always, I'll invite you to send a question to the Getting Simple podcast about the latest or any previous episodes at gettingsimple.com/ask. These are the goals. I'm going to skip today. So we are a bit quicker today. And, again, to recap, we have this intelligence and sketching playlist that we're creating as part of the current project. All right. And what are we doing today? Today, as I mentioned before, we're going to take a look at the React application and maybe some Laravel. I'm going to try to make a quick dive before we start recording on what we're actually going to do with each of these, and then get to record a tutorial that we'll edit and then post later. The first thing is going to be React hotkeys, how to add key shortcuts into your application. Maybe actually we do state first, because that way we can we can use hotkeys to run some commands on the state. And with state, we're going to take a look at React RKO. This is a state library built by Steve Reeve, and we'll see it. This allows you to add global commands and the concept of global state and undo, redo, stack, and persistence to your application. And then you have Laravel routes, which is a bit separated from this, but it would be a thing that I want to record because I want to be adding to this Laravel playlist that we're building. All right, so I think that makes it for the announcements of today, and I'm going to make an intro to the intelligence and sketching work session here, and we'll get started. Hi everyone, it's Nono here, and this is one more work session of the intelligence and sketching playlist. This is the collaborative AI platform project in which we're learning how to build an interactive web application in which many people can collaborate and draw together in a way that we can put on the web, and we can let other peers, bots, and other humans interact with the things that we're drawing with machine intelligence. All right, today we're gonna take a look at state in React with a library called RKO and hotkeys, how to add key shortcuts so we can interact with our application with the keyboard. And yeah, let's get started with that. As we've done before, we've taken a look at React and TypeScript and ESBuild and create serve in the Live 46. Today, we're going to focus on React hotkeys and React RKO. As I mentioned, this is one library for key shortcuts and the other one is for managing state. And I have here the covers for what these are. And we're going to be going more in depth in this when we record our tutorials. Okay, and we also have one last cover for Laravel routes. Okay, I think this is prepared for being a condensed live stream. I don't know how long it will take, but let's start coding. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to start setting up for React RKO and React hotkeys, and yeah, we're gonna get to code now, and we'll get back to those slides to build an intro. And all right, okay, and let me see where we are. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get back at our previous project. I think in Live 46 we did this ESBuild React TypeScript project that you can get at let me bring it here so you can see. So we're gonna go to, okay, so it's at github.com/nono.esp/live, and then you navigate to folder 46 and then to that one. You can see probably more easily in here, and we get an access to our application, right? We have, if we go out of the source directory, we have this ESBuild entry point. So we're not going to cover that today because we did that on our previous live stream 46, and tutorials will come for those things. So we're going to focus now on developing this to get state. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create, let me zoom into here so you can see better. Right, so I'm gonna make a directory for today's live stream, and I'm gonna copy, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna copy our folder for ESBuild TS React, and we're gonna copy it inside of here. Okay, cool. And this is gonna be, I don't know if we should add more naming to this one, but maybe we just put here v2 because this is like the okay, cool. And as always, we're just going to open this on Visual Studio. Great. Well, as I mentioned, we have this this entry point here for ESBuild, and today I'm gonna use a slightly different approach, which is trying to let me log here in the chat what we're doing. Hi everyone. Today we're taking a look at React state with RKO, React hotkeys, and Laravel routes. All right, cool. So the model I'm trying to do today, I'm going to try to develop the entire content of the tutorial as fast as I can here, and then we'll record a tutorial so everything's a bit more fluid and we don't have to edit that much. And I'll do this with the 3 tutorials that we are planning on doing today. So the first thing we have to do here when we have this folder is that we're going to be mm, adding this ESBuild version 2 folder to Git. And let me just verify that we don't have files we don't want to commit. Okay, and we're gonna commit 47 clone ESBuild React.js from life 46. All right, so we're gonna push that. Cool. And now we have in here, right, on Visual Studio Code, every time, let's say I remove this to go with the things that we have to do on the tutorial, I'm gonna be able to see those changes here, right? We have some stuff here that is not committed from live 27. Yeah, I don't know how to tell this to only show me, let's see, view as 3. Okay, that's a bit better. So I clicked in here, right? So this is flat, and if I do this, it shows me as a tree, so we can control what things belong to the current project that we're using. All right, so we can take a look in here, right? What I was talking about is that if I change stuff here, so if I add some stuff here, we're going to be able to see the diff and see what we need to change for our application to work as we want it to work today. And yeah, so the first thing we're going to do here is, and maybe we might want to write the steps, right? So we can put notes in here. Right, so maybe the first thing we do is that we take a look at our dependencies in package.json, and we see that here we don't have state, so we don't have the RKO library. So the first thing we'll have to do is install this library. All right. Okay, install dependencies, which we'll do npm install RKO. Okay, create state. And I already have an application built with this, so I'm gonna take a look on the side. Recharge here. Based on system. So we would have to go into our, so we would create this, so state.ts, and would have to load here from index.ts. Let me we'd have to create something that says export from state to make this globally accessible. And then we'll have to define here import as React, import. Okay, so we'll have to define our type somewhere. So import type. So maybe first we define state index.ts, create state types.ts. And inside of import type state from types, so we'll have to define that. Import state manager from RKO, and import type state selector from Gustav, which we don't have because we haven't installed any of this yet. But we could create our types.ts file, and those are on the root of the application. So this is root types. Okay. And inside of types, we just export interface state, and then we have here an app state that is our object. So for example, we could have a text being a string, and maybe I don't know, maybe a series of to-dos or something. Yeah, this could be our state, could be anything. So I don't know what we want to show here, but yeah, let's try it and see if we can come up with something better. But as soon as we do this, we should be able to import this. Okay, so we define our state now. So we would export our initial state here, state, and we say app state. We'll put initial values, so my initial text, and to-dos would be something like exercise, shower, read, draw. Those could be our initial state things, and then we have to create the context. React create context, state as substate. We export our app state, which extends the state manager state, and then we could have a function, for example, that I don't know, we could do add to do or set text. So text could be a command that we get our state equal to this, and then we return this set state. And what we have to do here to support undo and redo is that we're gonna pass a state for before and after. So before would say, okay, we're gonna store that our state before was text, state, app state, text, and after is going to be the current text. So app state text, which is equivalent to do text. All right, so okay. Okay, so we'll add here our add to do command, and here outside of this we'll do export const app. So we have the app state, initial state. We're gonna call this to do app and one. So this is a unique application for local persistence. And we now have to export a few overload methods of app state. Okay. Okay. Yeah, hello, Sodivias. I am gonna take a really quick break and I'll be back. Right, we're back. Okay, where were we? So I'm going to stop this and Okay, so let's continue. Let's try to see what we're missing here. And as I mentioned before, if we go, I'm doing here Control Shift G to go directly to this panel here. This is going to show us inside of the current project all of the things that we've changed. And this is useful for me to see, okay, I've everything in green I've created this state file, I've created this index, right? So this is what we changed, and also we've added this note to the README file. Okay, so let's save here and take a look at what is missing here. So we do have, okay, so the important thing we haven't done here that we'll have to do first thing on the tutorial is that we need to run the install commands. So we'll do npm install RKO, and that's all that we need for to get started with this. We install 3 packages, probably 2 stand as well, and we can see a bit more of that in here. So we've installed RKO, and RKO is there. And if we go to the changes, we see there's IDB key vault, we have RKO, Safari 14, and Thustand, and some other stuff. Okay, so now when we go here, we don't have that error anymore, so everything seems good. Now we see that we have state selector from Thustand and the state manager from RKO. In our types, this is complaining. I'm not sure why. We can do that, but on the previous project we didn't do that. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what's missing there. Let me show you here. So okay, we don't have a tsconfig file here, so let me see if by creating this is a TypeScript configuration file. Okay, so this somehow does that for us. All right, so this base URL seems like it's what's helping us have these types available here. Import app from app. And app. Oh. Okay, so we're taking, okay, so let's say remove import warnings with tsconfig, JSON, and this is gonna add the JSX to React, and base URL to source mainly, and we also add the include, exclude. We already added the declaration of the types last week for the CSS model. And okay, so we've done that, and this installs Archaeo, Thustan, and others. So we define state interface, allows to directly import state, and this one defines our state behavior. Note that we're gonna have undo and redo behavior directly. We'll have to build some elements. All right, so I think we're really close to being able to use this. So we are gonna be able to, so let's get back here and recap on app we already have. So we'll do npm build. Let's actually change our command to start instead of build. So start. And run it here, start. And I really liked how we last week, how we had this Electron app we run with native Fire. So it's HTTP localhost 5000. So we're gonna create an application so we can see our working server without any Chrome windows. All right, so well, this is what we had last week. Is it this one? No. Yeah, this is not the one that I was meant to start, was I? Oh yeah, this is the one. This is the one. So we'll have to add more UI to this. Okay, and let's close this for now. Okay. So we have, let me see what we're missing. Okay, so we have this here, and now let's close things here. Okay, so we go to our application and we want to add state. So we'll have to import. So, okay, so let's do one thing. So the way we'll explain how to get state from app.tsx, right? So display initial text. And here we have full code in live. So what we'll do is const app state equals, I'm not sure if it was app, use app state. And then we can use here our app state text. All right, let me verify how that was accessed. Okay, use app state. And to get our methods, we can do set text equals app. All right, so let me take a really quick break here again, and we'll be back. Okay, we're back. Let's close these ones again. And I'm here. All right, let's see. So we were taking a look. So we have our KO. And this is our previous project. Gonna close this. Well, let's actually make reference to that as the initial project. I'm testing this format to prepare. Okay, so I'm preparing this a bit more than usual, but let's see if this is useful. All right. And yeah, so what I was saying here, so you know, is that you can get app state, which we can access here the text, and you can see initial text. So we could go to state and change our initial text, right? So this says we're coding live, and we now remove this part here. And then we have set text, right? So if we, let's say when we click one of these, we could change the text. So we could do here, we don't have the onClick method here, but I guess we could add it. All right, so let's see if we run here set text zoom86. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think we have anything. All right, that works. So okay, great. So here we do have our initial state, and we could all right, so if I comment out this part, we don't have persistence, so you can see we start all the time from we're calling live every time this reloads, right? Okay, and we could okay, so all right, so now we have our state. So we're gonna do this. So we set state, and this is for the just for the text. If we want to add our to-do list, we would have to. Well, I mean, this shows state, and I guess we'll have to add something like. I mean, we could do something here. We could call this from anywhere, but I guess we could also. Okay, I don't think we need the add to do. So we just have this text, and if you wanted to add to do's, you could do it some other way. So in types, we remove that, and we can now, so we have this behavior, and okay, we might want to have to do undo here as well. So we could, let's just try really quickly. So let's just say we do undo redo, and we would just have to do here that on click, we just have to run app.undo, and on redo, we do redo. All right, let's see if that works. So we have coding live, and we click zoom. So we do undo and we go back, or we can redo and go forward. So Sony, zoom, 3, out of context. So we now can go back and then go forward. All right. And we could make a div here with our buttons and make this be spans. All right, no, that doesn't work. All right, I think okay, so let me just put here this. Okay, so we have undo redo, and then we add persistence. Explain how to get state, display initial text, and do redo, and then add persistent. Okay. So this seems to be our guide on how to do this, and we've, if we make a quick recap, so we can go back. We've changed a bunch of stuff. So this is building, so this doesn't matter. We've added this on-click handler to our picture item. We've told our TypeScript to, to compile with a few rules. We've installed RKO, changed our build command to start. We've defined our types, which is basically our state interface. We've defined in our application some interactions to glue everything, and we've exposed a state, which is the file that we're seeing here. All right, and we will have to get to here and text tab or something, so we'll put it there. All right, so we have this in here, which is working, and what I'm gonna do now is that I'm going to clone the initial folder again, and we're gonna record for real the tutorial. I don't think we need this one anymore because the other one is working. All right, so let me do that. And I guess I'll put this one aside. Okay. All right. So now we're gonna enter this folder and open that. Okay, so we start from scratch. And in the running application, I'm gonna stop the server so this doesn't load anymore. Okay. And again, we need to add this and commit. So we're gonna say 46 clone 46 yes build react yes for tutorial. Okay. So we push. All right. So we have, this is like a starting project in which we can build everything. And all right, so we're gonna get started. Okay. Okay, let's record the cover and let's get started. All right, let's get started. Great. Hi everyone, it's Nono here, and this is an overview, a hands-on coding session. Okay, let's record. Hi everyone, it's Nono here, and this is a hands-on overview on how we can use the RKO React library to add state to our application. This is a state manager application that we can use. It's open source. It gives us for free undo and redo stacks, so we can go back and go forth in the state that we are creating in our application, which is really nice. And we can add local persistence. This means that the state in which our application is, if we reload or do some changes or maybe get into the application a few hours later, or maybe a few days later, we will be containing the same state and presenting the same things to the user as they were doing before. This, as you can see at the bottom, is open source by Steve Reith. Okay, so that's where you can find it. And without further ado, let's get coding. This library that I was mentioning, you can access at github.com/stevereithok/RKO. And it's a stage manager with undo, redo, and persistence, and you can read more about it here. For our purposes, we'll just have to do npm install RKO, and I'll let you know how to add state to your application, even though you can see many of these things and how to support undo, redo, and stuff. We're going to get building from ESBuild React TS, which is a boilerplate project that we did in livestream 46. So you can go back to that video, or just go to this application, or just go to this repository and browse through the code of the state of the application, right? So I've already cloned this and we have it here. So we're going to be So we have the application here already, and the first thing I'm going to do to show you, I've already done npm install previously, but we can do it. The first thing I'm going to do here on a terminal is that I'm going to access the folder that I've cloned from the folder I showed you before on GitHub, and I'm going to run npm install. Everything gets installed here, and we can see in our package.json file, in here we have a build command that, as explained in the previous video, builds our application assets into a bundle with ESBuild. I'm going to change this build command to start because it actually builds and then starts a server with create serve. And after we've installed, we can run here npm start, and here on the left I just have a window that opens the whatever is at localhost 5000, so I can reload here and see that we have our working application being displayed. Right now, this application doesn't have any concept of state, so we could go, say, to our app.tsx file and put work coding here instead of work coding live. And what we want to do is create all of the infrastructure that is going to allow us to add state and even push changes and also have an undo redo stack. So let's get started. We're going to open a new terminal here. And as I was saying, RKO is based, it's a state library, it's based on Thustand, and we just need to run npm install RKO to get it installed. This will add a few packages, so including RKO, Thustand, and other dependencies. And then we'll see that RKO shows up as a dependency in our project. The first thing I'll do is that on the source of the project, I'm going to create this types.ts file. And here is where we're going to define the interface of the state object that our application is going to have. We export an interface that is going to be called state. Inside of it, the main object is state, and we're going to have a text that is a string. This is all we have to do, and if you have an application with more complex state, you will define those here. So for example, you could define a list of to-dos, the concept of an active command, maybe with a string or some sort of enum. So maybe you could say, okay, it's going to be drawing or erasing or fading. I don't know, whatever concepts of a command you could have in your application. But for us, we're just going to stick with this simple interface. So we just have a text string inside of our state. All right, the next thing we have to do is, assuming that you don't have that state folder, we would create a state folder, and inside here, we're going to create two files, state. Okay, let's go back. Inside of the state folder, we're going to create a new file that's going to call, okay, once again. Inside of the state folder, we're going to create a new file that is going to be called state.ts and another file that is going to be called index.ts. From index.ts, we just export everything as from index.ts, we just export everything from state and we will for now ignore that warning. And now we have to define our state.ts file. Here we're going to do a few imports. We import everything as React from React. We import our state type from types. And we see a warning that we'll fix later. We import our state manager from the RKO library, and then we import the type of the state selector from Thustand, which has been installed together with RKO. All right, so first let's try to get rid of this error, because then later we're going to have other errors show up as well. And we can see what I'm talking about if you try to import your app from your app file. Right? So if we were here to log our application, we see all right, so we'll have to remove this part. I'm not going to talk about this. So what we'll do is that we will add to our project, we'll add a tsconfig.json file. And in here, we're going to specify the rules that our TypeScript compiler has to use. So this is a JSON object. We have an include array. We have an exclude array. We have an object that is our compiler's option, and we have it here. What we're going to specify here is that the base URL of our project is going to be source, and the JSX that we're going to be using is React. And we're going to make sure to include source and the declarations.ts file, and to exclude things like node models. If we were to have tests, and if we were to have spec files. And also we're going to exclude our distribution bundle that gets built when we run npm start. All right, so this is our tsconfig file. And now we can see that we don't have that error for importing these types that is here, right? Because now our TypeScript compiler knows that the base URL is source and types is included in source. So we could do the same with app. So we could now import our app from app, and we could log our application here, for instance, right? Note what would have happened if we hadn't specified the JSX React here. I believe here we get this error that says that JSX is not set, but as soon as we set JSX as React, this error doesn't show up anymore. So if you have that error, you know why it is right now. All right, so now we need to define our initial state. So we export our initial state, which is of the type state, and of course we have the app state object, and we have text here, and we're going to set what we have right now on the application, right? So we're going to say, okay, this is recording live from state, and I'll put this here so we know when this changes. We'll remove it later when we have it working. You know, one thing we could do right now without any library or anything is that we could go into our app TSX, and in here we could say, okay, I want my app state from use app state, right? And this is a use method that right now we don't have, but that we'll use later. And we'll be able to also do something like this. We'll be able to get our, well, actually let's get out, let's remove this part because it's a bit confusing to add it right now in here. All right, let's keep going. So here we have to export the context, which is React create context with app state as our type, and then we pass this empty object as an app state. We now need to define that app state object, which extends the state manager from RKO, and here we pass our state type. Here we'll define our app methods, right? So we can define, for example, set text, which is what we had there. Maybe we could specify things like add to-dos if we had a to-do list, or set command if we have a set of commands as we explained before. So we're removing these ones, and now what we have to do is export our app, which is going to be a new app state with initial state at the initial state that this is going to start with, and we export our function that is going to be called use app state, which is going to have the type of state returned. Export function use app state. Here there are a few overloads for different types of ways in which we can access our application or use our state. And then lastly, use app state. Let me put this above here. Use app state. Okay, but maybe we're not passing the selector, so set state selector state K, and then here we have a function. So if there is a selector, we return app use store with the selector. Otherwise, we just return app use store. All right, so we've defined our overloads for use app state, and this is what we're going to consume. And then we'll have here a method that we can specify. All right, so first let's try to understand how this use app state works. We can go to our app file, and here inside of the function we can say, okay, our app state is going to be coming from use app state. And note that here we cannot find this name, right? So I can import use app state from state, right? So now that gets resolved. This is declared but never used. We already have there the concept of our text inside of this app state. And inside of coding live, I'm gonna clone this block, and I'm going to specify here that we want to print our app state's text, right? Oh, sorry, with lowercase. Okay, let's repeat that. And now that we have this app state, I'm gonna clone this paragraph, and I'm gonna print here app state.text. Note that when I save, now we get this we're coding live from state. So this one below comes from the state, and I can remove the other one. I can go back to my state, and now if I change this, you can see that this is actually being pushed from the state. All right, so this is our state in our application. So this now is running RKO, and we have this concept of being able to put state in there, but how do we change it? How do we push changes from places in our application? We need to define a set text method in our application that will be available anywhere in which we want to use our app. And we're going to be able to set it and see it, right? Then later we're going to take a look at undo and redo. To have this concept of undo and redo, each time we push state, we need to have a concept of what was said before the command was run and what is said by the command. So let's do some coding here. We'll say that set text is going to be a function that is going to get a string and is going to return something. And we're going to get the state from this app state command, and we're going to now return this set state in an object. As I mentioned, this object needs to have a before and an after object returned. And for each of those, we need to specify the text that was set before and the one that is set right now. So we'll say, okay, for before, we have our app state and the text is the current state, app state.text. And for after, we're just going to say that the new text that comes on the command is the text that we're going to set. All right, so this method should already work. And as I mentioned before, you could add other methods here, for example, right? So we could have something like this, and all you have to do here is like load your state and then return with before and after, right? And let's try this method. Let's see if it works. So the first thing we can do is we'll get that method and we'll say, okay, const set text, and we get this method from app. And this comes from here, right? So this comes from import app and use app state from our state file, because we are exporting app state and our app from here. Or actually, we're also exporting this use app state method, right? So this and this is what we're getting here. All right, so we have this set text method that we haven't used yet. So the easiest thing we could do is that we could say, okay, as soon as we load our application, we set text to new text in state. And this for some reason fails. All right, so let's scratch that part. Let's try to do it again. So what I want to do now is that when I click these elements here, these sketch cards, we set the text in here to the title of the image. I'm going to make add a quick emoji to each of these ones here. And now that we have these emojis, all we need is an onClick method that is going to set the text to this text here. So we do onClick. We'll say set text to this title that we have here. Of course, this doesn't work at the moment because we don't really have a handler inside of this picture component. And that's what we're going to do right now. So we'll just have to say here onClick. We'll just use the onClick methods provided on the props. All right, so this is cool because this now works. So I'm pushing state every time I do this. And when I reload, we start from scratch, right? So we talked before that so I told you before that we were going to add undo and redo and persistence to our application. So let's go back and try to do that now that we have the state working. All right, we have state working, so this is a big success already. And if we go to our state application, we see that we're exporting this app, right? This app comes from RKO, and it actually already has native support for redo and undo. You can see that if you go to your app object and look at the methods, right? So we already have undo and redo. The only thing we need to do is just to add some UI that can allow us to run that method, execute that command. So let's do that. I'm going to put here a div below the app state. So we'll have here undo and redo. And maybe we'll just put a space there. And what I want to do now is we need two components for this to handle my clicks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add two more divs. And what we're going to do is to make like a style. So we're going to say that bottom style is going to display as an inline block. is going to show a pointer cursor. And it's not going to be able to be selected as a text item, right? So like this. So we just have to now apply this style to our bottoms, and we see that that works. Add some styling. And then we do that. All right, so these don't do anything right now, even though they look like bottoms, they don't do anything right now because we haven't add an on-click handler. And that is the last step that we need to do. So we're gonna style this. And now we say, okay, on click, do something, and our handler is gonna be up, undo, and we'll change here this one to redo. All right, are you ready? So now that we have this, I'm gonna click here, right? We have Sony A6500, zoom, the tree, and the statue. And now, if I click on redo, there's nothing we can do because we don't have a way to go forward. There's no more state, but I can click on undo or redo, right? Now we can go back to our initial state, or we can go forward to whatever we had before. Right, so that works, and we can reset, and now we have lost all that possible state. There's this method as well that is called can undo or can redo. So if we have this item here, we could say if app can undo, and then we can have an object here. We're going to put our undo button, and we're going to put the same for our redo method. So we'll move our redo button in here, and then we'll say can redo. All right, so none of those show initially. If I click here, you see that the undo stack gets created, and we see this bottom. And then when I click back, I see the redo bottom, right? So I go back, go back, go back until I get to the initial state, and then I can redo. Right. So, just once more so you see it here. So if we reload, we're coding live. So I click here, and then I click here, and then here, and then we can go back or forward. All right, so that's our, the concept of an undo redo stack. And then the only thing that we're missing is persistence. Okay, so persistent means that if I reload our application and I'm at Sony, I want to reload and still be at Sony, right? And have persistent state. The only thing we need to do to add persistence is to add a name to our application behind the app. So for example, this could be our text app, and add a 1 in there, which is our version number. So right now here, we're just adding an ID that is optional, this ID. And then that way RKO is able to identify which ID we're loading in case we're gonna have multiple environments or many applications, and share the state. So we reload once again. I click on Sony, I click on zoom, and when I reload now, I'm back at the recorder. We've lost the undo and redo stack, of course, that we cannot go back and forth. But now if I click on the tree, I can go back or forth. And when I reload, I'm back at that option. So we've now lost the option to go back to our initial state. That would only show whenever we start from scratch, or when we change our application ID, right? So we now have this one again, and we can go. So let's say that in application 2, we leave the tree there. So I go back to the other application, and we put the recorder. So now we have zoom 86. And if I go back to my application 2, we have the tree. So you can have different contexts and different environments. All right, so this was it for this video. I hope that you got something out of it and you learned how to manage your React state, create an undo and redo stack, and add persistence to your application with the RKO library. It's an open source library. You can go and visit it at github.com/steveruizok and /RKO. It was Nono here. I would invite you to see previous videos on seeing how to build the React application with ES build, create, serve, and TypeScript from scratch. I'd love to hear from you, so leave comments if any of this was useful or if you want to learn anything else. And a future video, a separate video, will feature how to continue on this project to add the React Hotkeys library, the React Hotkeys library to be able to undo and redo with Command Z and Command C, Command Y, right? Like use your keyboard shortcuts to undo and redo and execute commands in our application. Thanks a lot for watching. It was Nono Martinez Alonso here. I'll invite you to see other videos in my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye. You can support these videos that I'm making here if you like the video, and you can subscribe if you want to get notified when I go live next or when I upload new videos. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time. All right, so we have enough outros there, and yeah, okay, so let's try to cool. So let's commit that and leave that as the main project. Where are we? All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stop this server. I'm going to take a look at what we have, and I'm going to add the ES. Okay, so the one thing, outside of the tutorial that I want to show you again is that if we look at this tree now, during the live stream, apart from the build bundle, we've modified mostly the same things that we were modifying before. RTS config, installed RKO, define our state interface, define some new UI for the app and the picture components, imported the state globally, and then define this state file that allows us to define, for example, the set text command, right? And now I'm going to commit this, and I'm going to remove the other folder. So I'm going to make sure that I do that. Okay. Right, so here we have these two folders. So this is the one that we care about. And we say here 46. React state with RKO tutorial to add React state with RKO. All right, so we push that, and we're gonna remove this other US build 2 folder, and we're gonna move this there. Package log. All right, so we have that, and now we can do the same as we were doing before. So now we have a clean state, and we're gonna see the minimal steps that we need. Yeah, the thing that I removed is the so we can actually grab that from the from GitHub, I think, from the history, because we've deleted the README, which I think was useful. And did I do that? Maybe not. Yeah, maybe I deleted that, and that's only on the video. So yeah, I mean, the README might be on the video. I just removed it. I always do these things. Okay, so that's okay. Now we want to see the minimal steps to build the React hotkeys. So how do we do that? Let's just write it down. Okay. Right, I'm gonna go to YouTube and take a look at how to remove the program is running. Okay, let's off I. Let's see if this is still alive. Okay, yeah, the application is now sleeping. Okay, so I'm gonna go to live 47 and we're going to go into this folder, and maybe, yeah, maybe we want to have two different folders. Well, it's okay. I mean, we want to have everything on the same, so we'll just use the same one. Okay, so yeah, so we're just gonna do this and wrap up. We're not gonna have time for Laravel routes today. We'll have to prepare that a bit better. And here, so the let's define the steps. Okay, so what we have to do is take a look at the other application, and here we have the React Hotkeys Hook. So we'll start with that, and we'll probably make an intro to this and React hotkeys. All right, and this one. And here we have the hooks folder, so create hooks folder with index.ts and hooks.ts. No, use keyboard shortcuts.ts. This is a bit easier than the one before. And then define this, which is just define our hotkeys. All right. Okay. Okay. Cool. Let's record this tutorial as well, and yeah, we'll wrap up probably and close this. All right. We need to make a note here that this is a session on recording tutorials, but this is going to be useful later for our application. And okay, let's prepare this part here and this here. Okay. All right. Oops. Hi everyone, it's Nono here, and this is a hands-on coding session to see how to use React hotkeys. This is a library that allows us to have declarative hotkey and focus area management. And we're going to use it to add some shortcuts to basically undo and redo in our application. You could use shortcuts, as we're going to do today, for anything, maybe like print a message or close the application or make a web request or anything that you can imagine. And Hook is available for this, so this is what we're going to use. It's called React Hotkeys Hook. It simplifies the way that we use this library, and we're going to create our own hook that is going to be called Use Keyboard Shortcuts. And you can run this from any function-based component in your React application. We're going to do from the app component and execute whatever you want inside after you execute the hotkey. All right, let's get coding. First, we're going to take a look at these libraries, right? So at Greena 13, so Alec Greenman has developed React Hotkeys. It's on GitHub. And instead of consuming this project directly, we're going to consume this one from Johannes Klaus, which is a React hook for using that library, I believe. And okay, that's not true. So I'm gonna start again, because I was a bit confused with this. I thought they were, but they're not. Okay, scratch that and Hi everyone, it's Nono here, and this is a hand coding session in which we're gonna see how to add hotkeys hooks to your application. Basically, be able to execute shortcuts like Control Z or Command Z in your app and have React execute methods. React Hotkeys is a declarative hotkey and focus area management library. Okay, sorry for this, but I think I'm confusing people here. So this is the definition for this library. Yeah, so we just want this other one. Okay. Hi everyone, it's Nono here, and this is a hand coding. Hi everyone, it's Nono here, and this is a hands-on coding overview on how to add a hook in your application to use keyboard shortcuts in components. We're going to create our own custom hook that is going to be called Use Keyboard Shortcuts, and basically continue with previous videos to run the undo and redo state command in our application. But you could run anything, like make a web call, or like close your application, open a window, or print a message, or do whatever you want with your command or keyboard combinations. All right, so this library is available on GitHub. It's developed by Johannes Klaus, and we can easily install it with npm install and get going with that, right? So npm install React Hotkeys Hook. So let's go to our application that we have built in a previous video in which we added a state with RKO, and another previous video in which we created this from scratch using ESBuild, create, serve, React, and TypeScript. As I mentioned, the first thing I'll do is open a terminal and install React Hotkeys Hook. Once that's done, we'll have React Hotkeys Hook, currently version 3.4.4, installed as a dependency in our project. I'm going to go ahead and add a hooks folder to our application. I'm going to add an index.ts file following the same convention as we have here, in which we export what we have in our folder. We're going to create a use keyboard shortcuts.ts file, which will contain our hooks, and that is what we want to export from index.ts. If you watched the previous video on RKO, we have this state.ts file that contains our state and our methods in the application. And then if you go to app.tsx, you would have the ability to see these undo and redo stack buttons, right? If we click here in the application that we have, we're pushing the title of whatever we click up here to this variable, and see how we can undo and redo, right? We have a stack. So we want to be able to do that with Command Z and Command Shift C to go forward, right? So undo and redo. And, with reload, so we don't have undo and redo anymore, because, this state only happens when there's actual state to undo or redo. And we go back to our use keyboard shortcuts file. We want to import use hotkeys from React Hotkeys Hook and import app from our state file. Everything we have to do now is export function, which is the use keyboard shortcuts, and use this hook that is called use hotkeys. Use hotkeys, you can use it by use hotkeys and then provide here a command signature and a function handler. So we can add multiple of them. So for example, if we want to add undo and redo, all we need to do is define those commands. So we'll have command plus Z for Mac and control plus C for Windows. And for undo, we'll do command plus shift plus Z and control plus shift plus Z. Right, so that's all we need to run these commands, right? The first thing we'll do is here, we'll directly call our app undo and our app redo methods, right? If I'm pressing Command Z or Command Shift Z here, nothing happens on the application because we're not using this from anywhere in our application. This is a custom hook that we have defined, and now we need to call that hook from the app component or any other component we want to use our commands. All right, so now we see that we've exported these, index.ts exports our keyboard shortcuts, and we have this imported from hooks. So we can actually, this is a really nice now, because now we can go to our app and we can directly import our use keyboard shortcuts from hooks directly. This will complain because we're not using it anywhere, but we can directly call here use keyboard shortcuts. Now this is enabling the shortcuts that we have defined in our application. Okay, I'm going to record that again because I have a typo. So we can import use keyboard shortcuts from hooks directly. And even though that's not used right now, we can call it from our, and we can call this hook from our app component, and now the shortcuts should be working. So I'm gonna click, 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 and click, and now I'm gonna do Command Z, which doesn't work. Okay, let me see if I can fix that. Okay, I had a typo here, so this should be lowercase. I'm just going to record the whole thing and make it a bit more fluid. Okay. Okay. So in our use keyboard shortcuts.ts file, we're going to import use hotkeys from React Hotkeys Hook, and then we'll import our app from state. We here define the function use keyboard shortcuts, which is a hook, and I will define our undo and redo commands. To define any command, you simply use the use hotkeys hook and then pass a command signature and then a function handler of your command. In this case, we're going to define that the undo is going to be command plus Z, command plus shift, no command. Okay, so let's record it. Undo is going to be command plus Z, or in Windows control plus Z, and redo is going to be command plus shift plus Z or control plus shift plus Z on Windows. And we'll just define the logic of our commands inside of here, which is going to be app undo and app redo. So now what we've done is that we've defined a hook, custom hook, that is called use keyboard shortcuts. This in turn is being exported from our index.ts in hooks. So we can directly go into our application and say import use keyboard shortcuts from hooks and use this in our app component or any other component really. So once I do this, I can click here on the tree, the microphone, on the statue, or the camera. And now I click on Command Z to go back and Command Shift Z to go forward, right? We can even press it, long press, and it just cycles through every single state change. So I'm gonna do many of these changes, and you can see that I can undo throughout the entire stack. So, this is how to add and undo and redo keyboard shortcuts to your application if you have that function implemented into your app's state. But we could have done any other thing. Like we could say, okay, use hotkeys, and then I'm gonna do, let's see, Command Shift V, for example. So Command Shift V, and then I'm gonna alert this really works. So now I save and I do Command Shift V, and then this prints here, this really works. And yeah, that's it. So I would say, just as a quick recap, all we did was npm install React Hotkeys. Okay, so as a recap, all we did here is npm install React Hotkeys Hook. So the library was installed. We created this hooks folder from which we export use keyboard shortcuts, and then we defined our keyboard shortcuts hook directly using this use hotkeys hook. I believe that we could have used hotkeys directly from here. So you could do here use hotkeys from a React Hotkeys hook, and we could have done here use hotkeys, Command Shift B, and then have a handler here that maybe say set text to this is Nono Martinez Alonso. And if I go to my application, I do Command Shift B, and then that pushes that state, right? We can continue clicking, we push that state, and then we can do undo and see. So yeah, these are two ways in which you can do. I think it's nice to wrap all of your application commands in one file, but you could have directly consume the use hotkeys hook and develop your commands into your application. So I hope that you found this overview on React Hotkeys Hook useful. Leave any comments if you have anything that you want to continue learning, or any comments that you found this useful. I am Nono Martinez Alonso. You can see more videos on React and managing state and TypeScript and many web development things on my channel. Liking this video helps the work that I'm doing with these tutorials, and feel free to subscribe if you want to get notified when I upload new videos or when I go live next. I want to invite you also to the Discord community at Nono.MA/Discord, and yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time. All right, so that was a bit long, but we have the two main tutorials of the day. And now I'm just going to do an outro for this intelligence and sketching playlist, and we'll finish. A note that will go at the beginning of the video. This session is going to be a tutorial recording session in which we're going to see step by step how to add state to our application with RKO. We'll add an undo and redo stack and also persistence. And then we'll see how to use the React Hotkeys hook to add keyboard shortcuts and combinations to your application, so we can push state back and forth, undoing and redoing, or maybe adding any other commands to your application. This was one more session of the intelligence and sketching project. We have many working sessions that we're editing, and hopefully we'll have we have many sessions like this that we're building step by step, and we'll edit all of this and upload into a separate playlist, maybe in the one that you're watching now if this is already edited. I hope you found this useful, and yeah, let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions or anything that was helpful from this video. It was Nono Martinez Alonso here. I would encourage you to like the video if you want to support the channel, and subscribe if you want to get notified when I go live next or when I upload new videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. All right, so that makes it for all of the videos, intros and outros. We didn't have time to cover this tutorial today, but we have the cover slide, and we'll do in future. And this is a good probably an aesthetic that I'm going to use for tutorials. Yeah, okay. It was a bit different of timing today, but I don't have the ability to do it later today as every day. So yeah, let me know what you think on the comments. I'll encourage you to like this video if you want to support the work that I'm doing here. Subscribe if you want to get notified when I go live next or upload new videos. Join us on the community. There's a lot of people right there. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'll see you next week. Bye.